Arnold Ebiketie was a second-round pick out of Penn State. He was a guy who transferred to Penn State for his senior year after playing at Temple, and he really has put a lot of great plays on film so far in his rookie year. Do I think he's the best edge defender, the best pass rush edge defender in this rookie class? No, obviously not. But I included him in this breakdown to be honest with you because I remember watching a lot of his film from at Penn State and I was impressed. And B, he's had a lot of quarterback pressures or a lot of wins in his pass rush snaps that haven't necessarily translated to sacks. He only has one sack so far. I think he should have had another one, and I believe I'll show you that in this video. He does have a forced fumble, 6 quarterback hits on about 265 snaps. Only had one tackle against the Bengals in Week 7, playing about 60% of the defensive snaps so far, and I think showing a lot of versatility. I'm going to let some of these plays run. He is spot shadowed before each play. He's a high level effort guy, tons of ability to redirect, uh, high level awareness, makes plays at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage here, as you see a screen against the 49ers, or even behind the line of scrimmage. I think he's super quick. They've got him playing into the boundary a lot, so he doesn't have a nickel defender outside him to support him in his coverage responsibility. And I think he's got the quickness and the speed and athleticism to do that. Plays on either side. So you see the previous 2 plays, he was on the left. This one, he's on the right. Generates pressure, in my opinion, with second effort right now. Here's the first effort going inside, and then just taking this left tackle and moving him this way to get back outside and get a strip sack. I think one of the 2 sacks I'm going to show you in this film, to be honest with you, was called back for a penalty. So only one sack officially through 7 games, but I love his ability to redirect, and I think this play is the best illustration of it. To win the second engagement after his primary move was maybe thwarted by an offensive tackle or maybe a tight end. Do I think he's a 10 sack a year guy as a rookie? Well, no. Look at the projection, all right? But this strip sack against the 49ers, if you ask me, shows his ability to redirect and beat a left tackle clearly. I do think he runs multiple moves from pass rush snaps that I have seen. I think I'm going to give you 16 overall plays here. I find him to be decisive, a guy who has a plan pre-snap on what he wants to do. Whether that plan works or not, I'm not sure, but he's not a guy who's just letting an offensive tackle get into his chest and have a loss. There are a lot of rookies who are struggling with their pass rush. I mean, look, Travon Walker only has 1 sack. Prior to Week 7, Aidan Hutchinson had 3, but they all came in 1 game. So they're against Washington. So there's plenty of rookies who are not generating a ton of sacks. George Karlaftis, another guy that I'm going to talk about in this video, only has a half a sack through 7 games. Like I said, he plays on either side, either the right or the left side of the defense. That's a huge asset because of the way he impacts the game, because of his athleticism and his speed. I was a big fan of his in the pre-draft process. As a Ravens fan, I thought that he might be there in the second round, but he was drafted at 38. I think we all knew he was a borderline first-round guy, maybe early in the second round, which is where he got taken because he went to Penn State from Temple and put up 9.5 sacks and 18 tackles for loss in 1 year. So far this year, this play is a little bit representative of where he is in terms of the pass rush. There's another half step or maybe a full step, that he needs to take before the quarterback delivers the ball. His snap count has grown for the Falcons, and I think it's because they've started to recognize like how versatile he is, and the way he impacts the game. I really like him in a 3-point stance. I like him in a 2-point stance, to be honest with you as well. He's disruptive. He's a high motor, high effort guy. I'm a big fan. Disruptive is a word that I think you want as many of your defensive players to be as possible. Kind of overruns the quarterback here, Jacoby Brissett. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's aware of things mid-play, things that are developing around him. He's got great instincts, trusts his eyes, 6'3", 255. I think he's very well coached, uses his hands instinctively. He does a good job standing up against offensive linemen in short yardage situations. The athleticism to chase down quarterbacks. I know it's Jacoby Brissett, and people may have various opinions about him, but it's an NFL concept with a run going away and then the quarterback booting off of it. Ebiketie, to me, if he doesn't fold so far down inside here, if he's a little more disciplined, he ends up with a sack. So that's just an example of someone having the ability to make certain plays, and in this case, he gets a quarterback hit. But if he was in a little bit better situation on the front side at the beginning of this play, with his initial reaction, you can see his shoulders, his chest are all turned completely that way. He's got to turn his body completely around to get reoriented. If he has stayed a little flatter, somewhere around in here with his feet, then he'd be able to redirect and probably get a sack, or at least have a better opportunity to get one. An underrated pick by the Falcons, if you ask me. He looks like an 8 to 10 sack guy potentially, in my opinion. Is that this season? Is that next season? I don't know. I'm going to show you how tough he is in short yardage situations. Another QB hit where the quarterback gets the ball off again. I think his move is a pretty high level move here. And he's winning against that same left tackle. Very similar to a move I showed him using against the right tackle earlier. Gets a quarterback hit. You can see the impact he had. The ball was kind of wobbly. Still was able to get it out there and get completed. But I didn't see anybody else winning on some of these plays where I'm showing you Arnold Ebiketie winning. I don't see anybody else winning for the Falcons in those situations. All right, against the Saints later on. Again, this is one, I think this should be his second sack. I think it's pretty close to the left tackle being guilty of a hold here. He's widened up and then rushing on the outside. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I really like Arnold Ebiketie's game. Again, as a Ravens fan, I was looking at him as a guy that maybe we could pick in the second round if a guy like Jermaine Johnson or whoever didn't fall to the Ravens at 14, and then, of course, they passed on him anyway. Same, attempt to rip on the inside. I think this play must have been called back because the other one counted. It was a forced fumble. I think he's probably getting held right about this point. Probably still being held. Fights through it. I feel like that's something that should be called. The NFL seems to not be interested in calling holds this year. Arnold Ebiketie clearly had a win there by his third step. All right, some short yardage situations to show you his toughness. Like I said, only 6'3", 255. So it's not like you're talking about a huge guy like Travon Walker or Aidan Hutchinson. Shows how tough he is here, if you ask me. Short yardage situation is going to be a QB sneak, and one of the Falcons defenders is diving over the pile. So Ebiketie's got to redirect after stepping down. He's going to redirect back out here to Brissett and get involved with the tackle. I'm a big fan of his. Like I said, sorry, I was checking my settings for something. I'm a big fan of his, like I said. I think he's equally adept against the run at him and run concepts away from him. Athletic enough to get involved in plays. I believe he almost has a forced fumble here. I'm not sure who they credit for this forced fumble, but you can see him stepping down onto the tackle. There's a huge mass of bodies. His left arm is sneaking in here on the ball. Someone else is involved. There's another helmet here. I'm not sure if it's Ebiketie who forces the fumble or not, but all I know is he's involved in the play, plays at a high effort level, in my opinion, and the Falcons got a defensive touchdown out of that play. Same play from the all-22 angle. You can see it. Let me know what you think of his play. If you think I'm overstating his ability level, I think he's got a high-level ability against the pass and against the run. The Falcons' defense has, had some issues during the year, but I really think he's got a bright future. Does he stack up with, Kayvon Thibeduaex, Aidan Hutchinson, Travon Walker? I don't know. I just know that he's got an ability to redirect mid-play. He's strong enough to deal with tight ends, get them condensed or compressed either back into the backfield or compress the inside gap. So what I mean by that is, like, if he's responsible for this gap between the two tight ends, let's say this Kittle step to him, Ebiketie does a good enough job on run blocks to compress the gap inside of him, meaning push that tight end this way, and also maintain his gap, which in this case is like D gap between the two tight ends. That's not how the blocking scheme ends up working out. Kittle's chips and then tries to go to the second level. He ends up dealing with the outside tight end, and I think he does a pretty good job. Let me know what you think of Arnold Ebiketie. Doesn't stack up stats-wise with the other guys that are on this list, particularly the big three, the guys that were drafted early in the first round. But I love his game, love his athleticism. Even when he gets to play out in space against the pass, I think Arnold Ebiketie has shown a lot of ability. For the 38th pick for the Falcons in the draft, to me, is a great investment. Where do I rank him? I don't rank players like that. I just know that Arnold Ebiketie looks like a quality NFL edge player that they got in the second round who has first-round athletic talent.